Okay, so in the previous video, we said that we were going to add hover text tooltips in the next video. So when you point at an icon, what will happen is in a fixed location, a window will appear that has a text description. In a later video, what we're going to do is we'll then have that window move to wherever you're pointing. Although that type of functionality is more typically associated with a inventory system. So if you point at a piece of equipment that just dropped, you get a pop-up saying, and usually it's coordinated, so it will be purple or orange or green, giving an indication of the level of rarity of that object, of that piece of equipment. So we may look at it that in depth, depends what you guys want to see. But for now, it's just going to be a fixed location window with several lines of text. So first thing I did is I drew this in an external program, and I just dragged and dropped it into the asset area. As I've mentioned before, a 2D image brought into a 3D environment it defaults to texture. Just change that to sprite and apply. Now let's go to Game Object, create another UI object, and create Image. So we're going to replace this image with this new image. So drag and drop it there. And again, if you did not turn that into a sprite, it won't let you do that. So this size and proportion isn't quite right. So let's make this like 225 and make this like 150. And we'll just move this to the upper left. Now what we need to do is we need to create some text UI objects that can be manipulated based on the button you're pointing at. So you're pointing at a button and it's going to transfer corresponding information. Like maybe the top line will say the skill name, the next line will say cost, and then maybe you'll have a brief description of what the skill does. So I think we're probably going to actually use 3 separate text lines for that, text objects for that. That will allow with more complex formatting and so forth. So Game Object, UI, text. We'll just move this up and over. That text is a little bit small. And we're going to make it centered. That way, regardless of the size of the text, because not every skill is going to have the same length, it'll still be centered. So we put the center alignment. And let's change the size to like 20. How does that look? Because I want it to be bigger than that. That's 18. So I think that's okay. And remember that if you want an object to be on top of another object, it has to be lower in the list. Okay, not perfect as far as alignment, but good enough. So, next step, the skill GM object needs to be aware of that new text. So, let's actually rename this first. Let's call this skill name text. We'll just call it skill name text. So now what we want to do is we go to our skill tree script, and we need to make a variable so that skill GM will be aware of skill name text. So public text, and we'll call it very similarly, we call it skill name txt. And then we save it. So now with skill GM selected, you can see there's that new variable there. So we just take that skill name text, put it there, and now skill GM is aware of skill name text and can make changes to it. So first change will be in the start section, again, of the skill tree script. We're going to take that skill name text object, and we're going to disable it. So enabled equals false. Pretty self-explanatory. And we'll just quickly run that so you can see what happens. There, it's now disabled. You can't see it. So now we need to add the event of pointing at or doing a mouse over a button. Now, if you click on one of these buttons, you'll notice, as we mentioned before, there's this default on click, but there isn't anything for just mouse over. There's a color change for mouse over, but you can't add additional functionality to that. You can only modify the color. So you need to put in a separate event that you can control for mouse over. So add component, event, event trigger, add new event type. And you can do pointer enter. And now this will kind of familiar. This says on click. This is now saying pointer enter. So this is similar to this in functionality. So before we create the linkage, we need to create a new function in that script, because just as we put the skill GM here, we're going to put the skill GM here, but we need to create that new function for a mouse over. So what is it going to be? All right, so we're going to create, so public void mouse over bomb. Oops, sorry about that. And for the moment, we're just going to say debug.log mouse over. So like I said, particularly when you're dealing with mouse overs and collisions and mouse downs, always test that. Now in this case, because it's a custom made, it's not automatic, and that's why this isn't case sensitive. But I still want to make sure that this functionality is working. So we save this. We come over here, we click on plus, we take our skill GM, put it there, and now we have access to any functions associated with that skill GM. Again, we put the function in the skill tree text, and that's where we should see it. And we have mouse over bomb. So now the connectivity is complete. If we mouse over the bomb, the script attached to the skill GM will execute. And in this case, it's just going to put something in the debug. So here we go. And there it is, mouse over. Perfect. So what we can do is, rather than having it do mouse over, we'll keep that in case we need to test something else. We're going to modify this. So just as we disabled it, we're going to enable it. Okay, so we're going to enable that text when we mouse over the bomb. Well, what else are we going to do? Well, we're going to change the value. Since this is explicitly for the bomb, we can just type out what we want it to be. So skill name txt dot get component text equals bomb skill. So we run it again. We point at the bomb, and sure enough, it says bomb skill. Now, if we move the mouse, it won't disappear because we don't have a mouse leave option. So what we do, I'm thinking we can do just one skill for any of the mouse exits. And just refer to the same skill. Yeah, let's try that for now. So, because the functionality is different if you're doing a mouse over the individual buttons, but the functionality is the same if you're exiting, and that is you're just shutting it off. So we could do public void disable skill txt. And we again take this, set this to false. And now we just need to attach that event and that function. So this is pointer enter. So new event type, pointer exit. And actually it keeps the skill GM object. And for this, we will choose disable skill text. So we run, mouse over, bomb skill, mouse exit, and it shuts off. Absolutely perfect. So let's extend this to the other skills. So we're going to click on the melee one. Same thing, add component, event, event trigger, and we need two triggers. We need pointer enter, but we can't choose the skill yet because we need to create, we can't choose the function yet because we need to create a specific one for mouse over, for the melee one. So let's take this to save me a little bit of typing, and we'll call this mouse over melee one. That gets enabled, so that doesn't have to change. We'll call this melee skill. Get rid of the debug. And now we go back to our button. We add our skill GM. Again, go to our skill tree, and it's mouse over melee. And add new event type, and that's mouse, the pointer exit. And in that case, like I said, we're going to use the same disable skill text. So bomb skill shuts off, melee skill shuts off, bomb skill, melee skill. So if you want, I can do another one. At this point, it's pretty much rinse and repeat, but let's go ahead and we'll do so this skill will be mouse over HP INCR, or HP increase. Again, the skill text gets enabled. This will be, well, rather than saying skill, for this one we'll say increase max HP. And that's somewhat longer than these, so you'll really see whether or not the script is centered. So we save that. Click on that button, and again, add component, event, event trigger, add new event type, pointer enter, put our skill GM object there, function, skill tree. Now just be careful of the naming. So I've been using mouse over to make it obvious that that's the function I want, because we've got lots of functions in here now specific to the different skills. So mouse over HP increase, add new event, pointer exit. Again, that's already there. Skill tree, disable skill. We'll go right to it, and there it is. And again, you definitely can see that it is centered. So basically what we would do next is we'd add the next lines of code, or excuse me, the next text lines. So I won't skip, I'll do that, but it really should start to become rinse and repeat, because what it is just as you edit this text, you're going to create another line of text. Well, that line of text will get a variable, just like this one. It'll get disabled in the start, just like this one. And then in these skills, these mouse over skills, it would also need to be modified. So it's just as line 1 gets modified with the name of the skill, line 2 would maybe be modified with, say, the word cost, something like that. So this video is fairly short, so let's go ahead and do that. So we'll just copy and paste this object. We'll call it skill cost text. And actually this will be a little bit different, because in these we put a constant. We will clearly need to drop in a variable, but we've already been messing around with the usage of variables. So skill cost text, we'll lower that. Let's make it a slightly smaller font. So we'll put it at 18. And this, we'll also make it centered. So as I just said, it needs to be referenced here with a variable. So public text skill cost txt. Now we disable that just like the skill name text. So skill cost text dot enabled equals false. So you're just mirroring, you're just rinse and repeating. We created the variable, we disabled it, and now for these functions, the mouse over functions, we need to modify it. So skill. So it's actually much quicker to add another line of text than it is to add a whole new button pop-up. So the button information being transferred over is a little bit more time-consuming, but even still, once you've done it, you have a model for it. So skill cost.txt, get component, text, equals. Now what we're going to do for this is we're going to do the word cost with a colon, a space, and then a plus sign, and it is BOM skill requirement. So I didn't mention it before, but this is known as concatenating, where you're basically combining two values. So you're not adding them together, you're concatenating them. So we save that. And I think, actually, we need to enable it as well. So again, just mirroring the functionality. So the text has to be enabled equals true. Save that. And the text should already be centered because I actually copied this one. So yes, it indeed is center alignment. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do. I created the variable, but I didn't link it. So sorry about that. A teachable moment. So it is this skill text. And we do that again. So they're blanked out, and there you go. So now you have 2 lines. So now that you've seen 2 lines, you can do 3, 4, 5. And since these are each different line, it's easy enough to make them different color. You would just add a line that changes the color. Oh, and it needs to be disabled as well. So in the disable skill cost text dot enabled equals false. Let's see if we can do that quickly. Skill cost text dot get component text color equals new color. And let's see what 110 gives us. So it's 100% red, 100% green, 0% blue. There you go. So it made it yellow. All right, I think that's good for one video. We got a lot completed. If you want, you could also disable and enable this so it's not in the upper left corner, which would be easy enough. Again, you just need to create a variable for the image on this object in the script, drag and drop it over here once you've created the variable, and then it's just a matter of enabling and disabling it in the same places. So you could disable it here in the start, and then you'd have to enable it in each of the mouse over sections. So I think that should do for one video. Got an awful lot done. Like I said, this is going to be the first iteration of the mouse over text, the hover text tooltips. The next one will be to have it actually move here, but it's like 90% there. It's just a matter of the movement. All right, so that should about do it.